Now, Tim Taylor, Tana Carley, John Telich on sports, and Dick Goddard with weather. This is News Center 8.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Here's what's happening.
Possible, but it was 20 years ago today that President Kennedy was assassinated. And today the nation paused to remember. Members of the Kennedy family and close friends attended a private service this morning at the Kennedy grave at Arlington National Cemetery. But the late president's widow, Jacqueline, and his 93-year-old mother, Rose, remained at the family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. And in Washington, a solemn memorial mass. News Center 8's Washington correspondent Marilyn Burkle reports by satellite and Earth Station 8.
The church was filled with famous faces, politicians past and present, Democrat and Republican, Supreme Court justices, Hollywood stars, and 2 generations of Kennedys. Outside the church, a crowd gathered, sharing with the officials inside the emotion of the moment. Although this date marks the death of John Kennedy, the memorial service was designed as a celebration of his life. A celebration that was bittersweet.
There is no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends.
It was the Kennedy children who seemed to be the symbol of the hope for the future, those young kids who are now young adults. The final tribute came from the youngest brother of John Kennedy, now the senior senator from Massachusetts.
What he did and believed in will endure, and in the end, it will prevail. We miss you, Jack, and always will.
There was an overwhelming feeling that it's hard to believe 20 years have passed. By satellite and Earth Station 8, I'm Marilyn Burkle in Washington.
While much of the focus today has been on the death and memorials to John F. Kennedy, his visions did not end with the assassin's bullets 20 years ago. Tonight, News Center 8's Mike O'Mara concludes his 3-part series on the living legacies of our 35th president. The series is called JFK, Cleveland Remembers.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
And so the race in space had begun in earnest. And now that the moon was part of the Kennedy New Frontier, the rocket power to get us there and back would come from here, Cleveland, the Lewis Research Center. Scientists and engineers at Lewis had begun rocket research some 14 years before Kennedy's mission to the moon was even announced. The critical experiments using liquid hydrogen were already on the books. But to get to the moon, huge engines and power supplies would be needed. The staff at Lewis was quickly expanded to more than 5,000. Dr. Ted Olson recalls the impact of Kennedy's quest for the moon here in Cleveland.
I think we were a little surprised at the timetable. That was a little more abrupt. We had been asked, of course, could you do this kind of mission? And we had thought we could. But somehow to hear it announced and to be on stage before the whole nation with this tight timetable was pretty dramatic.
The team effort and hard work paid off. Before the decade was out, man had gone to the moon and back. And today, even as we enter a whole new generation of space exploration in the 80s, the Kennedy message of the 60s still rings true.
Now it is time to take longer strides. Time for a great new American enterprise. Time for this nation to take a clearly leading role in space achievement, which in many ways may hold the key to our future on Earth.
I'm Mike O'Mara, News Center 8.